the first theatre in the world and also the oldest. Here in Athens, the Theatre of Dionysus.
It was founded in the 6th century BC and could accommodate 17,000 spectators. The Theatre of Dionysus is located on the southern slope of the Acropolis. On the map of the Acropolis in Athens, we see our Theatre of Dionysus here in the southeast. Right next to it is a younger theatre from Roman times. The Odeon of Herodes Atticus from the 2nd century AD. It is much better preserved and is still used for performances today. If you are interested in attending an opera or a concert here, you can find the link to the event calendar below.
Back to our Theatre of Dionysus, the first and eldest theatre of the world, and the most important of ancient Greece, in which the first drama in world history was performed.
Yes, theatre is a Greek invention. But what was new? Theatre-like performances existed before, for example in China and Egypt, at the courts of the rulers. But the auditorium was invented and established by the Greeks. The auditorium where the audience could sit and watch the play. The word theatre comes from the Greek verb theorein, which means to look at, to contemplate. Greek theatres were typically semicircular. They were built into a hillside, because there are many mountains in Greece. In contrast, Roman theatres are very often on a flat surface. Greek theatres also have breathtaking acoustics. If you drop a coin at the bottom, you can still hear it in the top seats.
The Greek invented not only the theatre building with auditorium, but as well Greek drama as a literary genre, the tragedy and the comedy. Before I tell you important details about the emergence of theatre in Athens, let me first provide some information about theatre in general in ancient Greece.
There was a chorus in every play. In addition, a maximum of 3 actors played, so that an actor often played 2 or more roles at once. At that time the actors were only men, who also played the female roles. They wore theatrical masks, and were stuffed with padding according to their roles. Here we can see theatre masks, a wall painting in Pompeii, and a theatre mask of 2nd century BC, that is in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens.
As already announced, I'm coming now to the roots and origins of Greek theatre. The beginning of Greek theatre is closely linked to the god Dionysus, from whom the Theatre of Dionysus takes its name.
Originally, Greek theatre emerged from cult plays in honor of the god Dionysus. Dionysus was the god of wine, joy, ecstasy and intoxication. The religious cult in honor of this god developed into a festival in Athens, the so-called Dionysia. That is a festival that was celebrated once a year. The Dionysia were lasting several days and started with a procession and a sacrifice to the deity Dionysus. On the following festival days, theatre competitions took place. A comedy competition and a tragedy competition. There were prizes, not for the actors, but for the poet of the play.
The origins of Greek theatre take us to the Agora in Athens. The Agora was the central public space and was the hub of commercial, political and social life. On the Agora, the first dramatic performances likely took place.
Then the performances were moved to the sanctuary of Dionysus on the Acropolis, here, a little south of the later Theatre of Dionysus. And that's how the first theatre was created. At the beginning, in the 5th century BC, the theatre consisted only of a ground floor orchestra, the circular area where a chorus of dancers performs, and a simple wooden skene, a hut for the changing of masks and costumes. There were no spectator seats yet, but at the beginning the spectators had to sit on a natural slope that wore the origin of the auditorium. Wooden rows of seats were later built. But only around 330 BC the stone building was built that we can see today. The theatres of ancient Greece were open-air theatres, usually in a north-south orientation. These theatres had space for large crowds of spectators. For example, the theatre in Ephesus could accommodate up to 25,000 people at a time. Our Theatre of Dionysus in Athens offered space for up to 17,000 people at the time, even though it looks quite small today. About the seating arrangement. In the beginning there was no fixed seating arrangement. Later there were places of honor for priests, officials and residents with special merits. Male citizens then sat in rows near the stage, while the back seats were reserved for women, children, non-citizens and slaves. Originally, the author of a play had many tasks. He had full responsibility for the whole theatre performance. He took care of the direction, composed the music, he arranged the dances, and he usually appeared as an actor himself. In addition, each poet had a so-called choregos, who put together and looked after the chorus. Later, towards the end of the 5th century BC, the author's function was increasingly reduced to his writing activity. The tragic poet Sophocles stopped acting in his own plays, and the comedy writer Aristophanes increasingly handed over the direction to others.
All of this happened in Athens, in the famous Theatre of Dionysus, the first theatre in the world, on the southern slope of the Acropolis, which has its origins in the cultus of Dionysus. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Please click on the bell icon to get new video updates.